Mass desire testing versus angle testing. Which one will make you more money? Before we jump into that, I'm going to really spend some time opening up the hood and explaining why, even though you're trying native image ads, you're still not seeing success. You're still running into high CPMs. But before I do that, I want to first shout out this guy, Anthony Camacho. So, unironically enough, months ago when I was doing product research, going through the Facebook ad library, I came across this brand that was selling a cat water fountain using nothing but native image ads. I thought it was really interesting because at the time I was struggling with video ads. I'd have brands blow up, in a few days, and then shortly after that it would die out, and nothing I would do would work. But I was really intrigued by this advertiser because they were doing something I've never seen before, which is launch just these basic bland images with just super long copy. I figured it might be working because they had tons of ads in their ad library. So I got inspired and decided to launch a similar product, not a fountain, but instead a cat cooling mat. And within the first few days, did really well for me, but CPM skyrocketed. So I decided to pivot on to a new product, which would then be Helovin, my teeth whitening product, this U-shaped toothbrush. Ran some native image ads for that, was able to scale to 5K a day, and no longer can dropship the product. But regardless of that, at the time, unironically, I didn't even know it, but this person here, Anthony Camacho, owned that brand, and he was actually documenting his journey. So when I had mentioned it to a buddy of mine that I tried this product, he's like, "Oh, you should check out this Anthony Camacho guy." Months ago, this happened months ago. Watched some of his stuff, got really inspired. And I'm the type of person that I can just see what someone's doing and replicate that. So I would go on to test and find a lot of success with what I was doing. So shout out to Anthony without even knowing it at the time. This guy inspired me to pivot in my dropshipping journey, and it helped a lot. With that being said, since the last few months, me getting more popular on YouTube and finding a lot more success, a lot of people have been comparing me to Anthony, and it makes sense, right? We teach the same thing, relatively speaking. I want to give him his credit though, because the dude's been talking about this on YouTube for a long time. I haven't had the luxury of being able to go through and dive through all his content, but despite that, he obviously knows what he's talking about. But a lot of people are saying, "Yo, Alex, what do you do differently than him?" And I do want to make it clear that I have a slight unique strategy that I've used from other very, very popular marketers throughout the history of time that's allowed me to have a slight edge and a slight difference that I'm going to finally be sharing with you guys today that I don't see too many people talk about. This exact strategy has allowed me to scale my brand from 0 to about 13K a day in revenue in just under 3 weeks. And we're doing right over 4K in pure profit. And it's a reliable, consistent strategy that's allowed me to absolutely skyrocket my brand in the last 30 days here. In the last 30 days here, you can see that we're getting right around $150,000 in revenue. And a lot of people ask me, what tool is this? This tool is called Triple Whale. It connects directly to your Shopify dashboard and your Facebook ad account so you can see the true profit. So obviously doing some really good stuff, but I'm doing it slightly different than most people. And I think that slight change could be the difference between seeing some money come to your account versus not making any money at all. So I want to make it very clear here. Spoiler alert, I'm not saying one strategy is better than the other, but I want to open up an alternative for those of you that have been trying and not seeing the results you want. Right? I'm getting a ton of people message me and saying, "Alex, you guys do relatively the same thing, but I'm struggling. How were you able to see results? Blah, 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 blah." So although I am not as tapped in to Anthony's stuff nowadays, I am familiar with the idea of mass desire testing, and I want to highlight how what I do is similar and has similar concept, but it could be the difference between you finally getting this to pop or not. So I went ahead and made this column here. And just so you guys are aware, I started dropshipping about 11 months ago. You can see on this very YouTube channel, it's all documented there. But I'm not new to business, and I'm not new to the concept of marketing itself. I've been doing marketing online organically, paid ads for the last 5 years, but most of my time was spent into the info space, agency space. So I'm familiar with the concept of marketing and how to attract the type of person you want to sell to. But doing it in the e-com space took a little bit of time for me to learn that. But I used a lot of the fundamentals from that to be where I am today. In fact, I had an entire Instagram account designed to help online coaches sell with IG ads, right? These are people selling high ticket programs. So I had that whole brand there that I was doing and creating YouTube videos from well before this channel here. But before we get into that, I want to kind of highlight some of the key factors of the differences so we are on the same page here. Mass desire testing versus angle testing. And this is going to be important if you want to write better copy and have a better chance of actually scaling with native image ads. To my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, if Anthony ever watches this or anybody that supports Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, The focus of mass desire testing is a big universal motivation that is shaped within large groups. So if I'm selling a back massager, the mass desire is to relieve back pain, but it should be a desire so strong shared by multiple people. And when it comes to long form copy, we want to tap into existing emotions and wants. And to make sure this is clear, if you've watched any of Anthony's videos, he's definitely talked about Eugene Schwartz, one of the guys that created, the foundation for marketing. His book, Breakthrough Advertising, really great book. So a lot of his fundamentals are pulled from that, which I to believe to be true. And the concept is that you're appealing to everyone with shared desires. Great for building big emotional arcs and storytelling. So this is basically like, I don't care if you're a mom, I don't care if you're a stay-at-home dad, I don't care if you're a child. You have back pain and your mass desire is, I want to resolve that back pain so I can live a better life. Doesn't matter who the person is, this is what everybody wants, is relief in their back. Angle testing, which I don't know if Anthony does, I would assume he does in his program, but I can't confirm that 100%. But angle testing is what I do first, which is focusing on the frame of an offer and a message specific to that sub segment of people. So I know everybody that's interested in this back massager wants back pain relief, but I'm going to try to find specific sub niches of people to speak to with that desire. So I started doing this initially with Heloven. We'll talk more about that in the copy, but it's very important, especially you watching this video, because you are on a limited budget, right? And I think I have a good grasp of my audience at this point now after creating a good amount of YouTube videos. Most of you guys are beginners, and that's going to be important for a reason, right? So the long form copy that tests different hooks, approaches for performance, right? Specifically going after sub niches of people within the market that has that desire. Now, why do I do this and why do I teach this? Well, first, before I get into why I do this, why I teach this, and this is one of the biggest things that I focus on, is because I understand most of you guys are broke and most of you don't have a lot of money to now start spamming and testing different and competing, most importantly, in these really competitive niches. And I think that is the one big difference that a lot of you guys are struggling with. I actually had one of my community members that helped me, that inspired me to make this video, ask me that. He was like, Alex, I've been seeing a lot of your stuff. Obviously, I'm in your program, but I've also been seeing Anthony, and I've been trying his stuff. I've been trying your stuff. I'm not getting results I'm not getting results right now, with what I'm doing. What's going wrong? And it's not to say mass desire testing doesn't work. Mass desire testing, of course, works. Of course, this is a great idea, and you should do it and test it. But today's video isn't about which one's better. My whole premise of this video is to potentially offer you guys another opportunity to test your native image ads. And the reason why this is important is because for us to understand why you keep facing high CPMs, you need to understand how the Facebook bidding and auction strategy works. I'll leave this research document down below, but this is basically how the Facebook auction system works specifically for dropshippers. You could read through this. There's a lot of great information, but here are the main reasons why your CPMs are so high. Too many advertisers targeting the same audience, right? So everyone is targeting women, pet owners, people with back pain, right? This actual training in today's video also will talk about a little bit about niche hunting and finding specific niches that aren't too competitive to get into. But naturally speaking, most people are speaking to the same type of person and they keep it very broad. Women over the age of 35, right? That's kind of how most people do their marketing. Another reason why this could be happening is audience fatigue and blindness. So users scroll past the same 20 massages, hair serums, dirty dog brushes all the time. And I'm gonna give you guys a real life example of how saturation works in the market space and how another concept that I don't see a lot of people talk about, which is competitor adjacent products. I'm gonna give you guys an example and show you that in just a moment. But the same exact products are being marketed to the same people all the time. Yes, your copy might be a little different, but it's the same exact audience, especially with the new Facebook update. Andromeda pushes the idea of concept training, right? Like training the algorithm, or in your case, the pixel, sorry, how to find different sub niches of people to go to with different concept and different marketing. So by nature, audience fatigue and audience blindness. Another thing, and this is the biggest thing, this is very important. Number 3 here is why a lot of people go into this and they try to dropship supplements, hair growth, hair loss, anti-aging, cosmetics, sleep apnea, sciatica. They're advertising in these really, really competitive niches, and they're wondering, Alex, why is my CPMs $300? Well, here's one of the biggest factors that not a lot of people consider. Facebook trusts advertisers, and there's this thing called Trust Score. And advertisers that have been running ads longer have more historical conversions, meaning they have more purchases, higher purchase data, and stronger pixel learning will naturally get the bid faster and more times than you testing with $50 a day or $100 a day. So in other words, the guy that's spending $10,000 a day on ads, that's been running ads for the last 6 months on a new product or on the same product, they're gonna get the bid 9 times out of 10. You're gonna get barely, if you're lucky, you'll get a couple sales, but it will be too expensive for you to afford that. Right, so you're testing on a new pixel, which you should be doing, but by nature, you're gonna have to go against somebody that is on a seasoned pixel. So, Facebook also prioritizes higher conversion advertisers. So the people that have a higher website conversion are obviously going to get more sales. And then this is the biggest one, right? No true definition or differentiation. Don't know how to say that word. Unique mechanism. That's an easier way to say that. So you're just marketing another serum, another hair growth serum. There's nothing new or unique about it. It's the same thing that people have seen a million times. So here's a couple of different reasons why you're struggling with that. Another example that's not on this document is competitor adjacent products. I talk about this all the time. Let me show you a real life example. So if I go in the Facebook ad library and I type in cat owner, right? I type in cat owner and I filter for images because we're just going to look at this, right? So another question people ask me, well, Alex, if I find a competitor in the market space and they're running native image ads, can I just copy them? Look at this, right? So we only have 67, which is interesting. But we can even do like cat parent, cat owner. But if I scroll through the Facebook ad library, we'll see that there are multiple advertisers creating ads going to cat owners. And they look relatively similar, right? So this is important, right? If I do cat parent or even just type in the word cat, I'm sure I'll get more. But this is important because now we're starting to see that, okay, the same person that we're going after, the same cat mom, they're seeing a bunch of the same exact ads, even if they're different products. I don't even need to click any of these buttons here to show you what these products are. I just know that they're all different products and they're going to the same exact person. So guess what? Facebook has to figure out, okay, how do we categorize and see and decide who gets to show their ad in front of the cat owner? There's only so many cat owners on Facebook at a time. So there's a lot of them, enough to make a ton of money. I'm not saying that there's a scarcity problem. I'm just saying that, especially with the new Andromeda update, Facebook is now figuring out way faster who to show the ads to. And it's not that you can't make money in these very difficult niches with native image ads. It's more so that everybody is doing the same exact thing and you're getting grouped up with the same advertisers that are running ads longer, spending more money. So back to the concept though, right? I want to keep this back to the idea of angle testing versus mass desire testing. You're having two issues. For those of you doing native image ads with struggling CPMs and whatnot, you're having two issues. One of them just being you suck at finding good products and you keep going down the very competitive niches. But the second point here is something that I don't think you're necessarily doing wrong. If you do mass desire testing, I'm not saying that you should stop doing that or it doesn't work. But what could potentially help you as well with your limited budget is proper angle testing first. Okay. So this book here, The Ultimate Sales Letter by the Godfather of Copywriting, Dan Kennedy, talks about this, right? So when you try to speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no one. Why am I bringing this up to you? Well, in my info business that I used to run, we were able to scale up to about 50K a day, or sorry, 50K a month, not a day, 50K a month. And one of the things we got really good at was helping our clients create really good offers. And it was as simple as figuring out who do you want to speak to and who do you want to work with, right? So for example, if we had a fitness coach selling the idea of losing weight, technically speaking, that would be the mass desire, right? Losing weight. That is technically the mass desire. And then if we were to, juxtapose this or, relate this back to e-commerce, if I were to go in and do mass desire testing, I'm going to go around mass desire testing with the idea of losing weight. What I did differently was instead of saying, okay, you want to help people lose weight, how about we also, while we're at it, define who we actually want to work with? So if I'm selling a fitness offer, why not just define the people we can speak to? So in one case, I remember one of our star students at the time, she focused on helping stay-at-home moms, right? So why is this important? In marketing, sometimes the product you think is saturated is just not, is in most cases, it's not that it's saturated, it's just that the people we're speaking to are saturated. And in my experience, I find that just my experience, I'm not saying that you cannot do this in mass desire testing, but I just find, as someone that's a beginner, at the time when I was doing this, I was a beginner and I was, had a limited budget. So going in these competitive niches, because I didn't know any better, I didn't know about product or niche hunting that I do now, but going in these competitive niches, I learned that the mass desires are the mass desires, right? Like when it comes to the U-shaped toothbrush, people want wider teeth or they want to save time brushing their teeth. There's only so many like really good mass desires. So now the people that I'm competing with, they're already going after that same mass desire. So I'm now having to fight with the same exact massive brands in the U-shaped toothbrush. I saw a comment on one of my YouTube videos not too long ago. Someone said, Alex, you drop ship this U-shaped toothbrush and you tell us, and then that's in a saturated market. You told us not to be in saturated markets. Yeah, that is true. You should stay away from saturated markets. But you know why I was able to get through and scale this brand to 5K a day in a very competitive market? I was able to do it because I did angle testing. Back to this copy here that I showed you guys in last week's training, I was able to find a certain type of person and just do that and just go straight to marketing to that person. I didn't care too much about the mass desire. I just wanted to find the type of person. And then with AI, I would then be able to create variations of different angles and sub variations that could allow me to speak to that person in different ways and talk to them about the different things that they want. Hopefully you guys are following along and that makes sense. But back to one of my winning long-form ad copy for Halovin, the U-shaped toothbrush. So rather than using AI, doing deep research, rather than having Claude create me copy based off of a mass desire, I had to create copy based off of the type of person. So you can see here, right? The pediatric dentist at a private practice pulled me aside and said, whatever devices, whatever that device is, every family in Greenwich needs one. First thing to mark here, right? I'm gonna even use a different color. Every family in Greenwich. Why is that important? Where is Greenwich? Greenwich is one of the richest towns in the United States. It's in Connecticut. And this is important because throughout this long form copy, there's specific characteristics of the type of person I'm talking to that will resonate with them more than just the mass desire itself. Again, not saying mass desire testing doesn't work. I'm not saying Anthony's strategies don't work. I'm just trying to give you guys another opportunity or another window to do your copywriting and testing. And Anthony very well might be teaching this, and I may not know. It's impossible for me to watch all his videos, so I don't know. Maybe he teaches this and talks about this, but I don't know for sure. So that's why I'm making a video, and this is what worked for me. So this is the first thing, Greenwich. Right. So once I did my research and my copywriting, I learned that there are rich families that pay for convenience. This is what I did with deep research when I was creating my copy for the first time for the brand Halovin. So this is one characteristic, Greenwich. Another characteristic, Tesla. Another characteristic, venture capital firm. So if you notice, with mass desire testing, it's pretty hard to have these are super specific characteristics of this target person. It's very difficult with mass desire testing to just to be able to create copy that highlights these specific characteristics, because to my understanding, with mass desire testing, you're highlighting and elevating that desire. So it's hard because that desire could be applicable to a stay-at-home mom, could be to a truck driver, could be to kids. So it's hard to have that specific, like, okay, you can niche it down, but basically at that point you're doing what I'm doing, which is angle testing. So I found with this specific copy, everybody that was doing U-shaped toothbrushes in the United States was selling the idea of wider teeth and doing it in less time. I was able to get through the cracks, which was difficult, but I was able to do it because I was able to highlight and figure out what sub niche of people are being underserved in the market. This was basically marketed as a high luxury U-shaped toothbrush for richer, wealthier people. That's basically what it is. And then, of course, there were some desires in there. Of course, you can't do copywriting without desires. So, of course, it whitens your teeth. It saves you time. But this is early in the copy, too. Think about this. This is within the first 4 sentences of the copy. So think about long form copy. And, a lot of you guys look at this and say, there's no way someone reads this. If it feels like it resonates with you, they will. And that is probably one of the biggest factors for me. And I'm so passionate about this because, again, I'm new to dropshipping, but I'm not new to marketing. I have so many marketing books. I go through marketing and read through some of the greatest copywriters and marketers of our generation and even before our generation. And this is what they talk about. Hormozy talks about this. Russell Brunson talks about this. Dan Kennedy, the godfather of copywriting, talks about this. Finding that specific person and not only addressing them, right? Because in this copy, I'm not going to be like, if you make 6 figures a year, this U-shaped brush is for you. No, I'm resonating with them with specific characteristics early in the copy. And of course, there's desires in here, that no doubt. But I think that for me, my copy and the focus of my deep research is not only making sure I find a problem-solving product, but figuring out what market is underserved and could have desire for this. And I didn't shoot in the dark to do this, right? I didn't gamble and just start I didn't find a pair of blue light glasses and say, who do I think could buy this? I did deep research. I went through Reddit forums and I discovered that there is a subgroup of people that are wealthy and want to keep their life automated and whatnot. And that's how I was able to come across this copy. And then, of course, I pivoted that to also braces and some other things as well. I also have copy for kids that are autistic. I was going to be the next angle I scaled with Heloven before I got the DMCA claims, but the autistic parents that have kids with autism and speaking directly to them, that's not a mass desire. That's a character trait of that individual. I was going to go to the 10th mile with that. The brand that I'm scaling right now to 12K a day, I just showed you the start of this training. I'm doing a lot of angle testing. Mass desire testing is common. A lot of people know the mass desire of pretty much every product, right? If I show you these blue light glasses, you could probably guess why people would want something like this. But where I've found success, and this is just my story I'm sharing with you, and some of the students in my program as well are starting to really catch on to this, is angle testing could be the thing that can separate you from the other people testing native image ads or just doing Facebook marketing in general. And we could go on and on. There's more characteristics here that I thought was important, right? Like, look at this, right? Even the way that, by the way, this is very important in your long form copy, is how you introduce the product. I already have a training on this from last week, but your hero placing and introducing your USP, even the way I introduce the product, the solution, that aha moment, right? It's done in a way that speaks to that high earning individual, that high earning mom, a small company in Boston founded by an MIT engineer. This is relevant to the high earners. High earners, if you do your research and really read and learn about these people, they want status and verification. They want to make sure that whatever product they're buying, it's at the highest quality because they have the money to be able to afford that. So in the copy, MIT engineer who had an autistic son, right? These are specific character traits of the target person that I'm working with. So angle testing or sub niche testing, whatever you want to call it, I don't really give a damn what you call it, but this is what I've been focusing on, and maybe that could be the difference for you. Now, it's important you don't just shoot in the dark. And what I mean by that, you don't just start saying, all right, let me start thinking who could be some people that could benefit from this product and just start guessing. Don't do that. You should do your deep research and let me know if you guys want. I'm getting prepared to put together some new prompting, some new scripts, some new deep research strategies. If you guys want that, let me know down below. I don't know how well this video is going to do. Maybe no one gives a fuck about this video and no one watches. If that's the case, all right. But if you guys do care, let me know. I'm going to be working on that. Probably could release that after the holiday break if there's enough demand, but we'll see. But that is one of the biggest things I wanted to highlight and talk about, is just that what you could be doing. And the biggest takeaway from this video is that, again, not saying Anthony's strategies don't work. I'm sure he has people doing amazing things, and he himself has built an amazing brand doing mass desire testing. Mass desire testing is built off of a concept that is already been proven throughout years of marketing history. But all I'm trying to do, the only purpose of this video, is to open your eyes to maybe something else that could be beneficial for you. My assumption is that you're limited on a budget. You don't have thousands of dollars. And I'm not saying you need thousands of dollars to do mass desire testing, but with the sheer nature of how many people do drop shipping, it's becoming more and more competitive and more challenging to enter in certain markets, in certain niches. So if you're going to enter in certain markets and niches and you try mass desire testing and it's not going the way you want, continue to refine your copy, continue to test, but also why not test some angle testing as well, like how I do it. Or maybe you've been doing what I've been doing and it hasn't been working, then do what Anthony teaches, do mass desire testing. But my whole purpose and goal, right? A lot of people keep comparing us. I don't like being compared to somebody else. Not because Anthony's not a good guy or not, but because I don't think it's important. I don't think there's any relevance in even doing that, because at the end of the day, we're both trying to give you great free YouTube content to help you scale your business and your brand. And I think that's more important than anything else. But with that being said, that is very important, man. It's very important. And a lot of my advice is geared towards beginners. And I'm trying to always find the path of least resistance for you. Because again, I was just in your shoes not too long ago. Okay, I want to make sure it's very clear. I'm not a guru. I don't have 10 plus years of e-commerce experience. I do know a lot about marketing, but I'm still relatively new to the game of e-com. But even then, like, I do this full time. I dedicate every second of the day, every moment of the day doing this. And I value every single one of you that watch my content, supports me. You guys DM me and you let me know. A lot of you guys are in tough positions. You're struggling financially, you're not in the best position, but you're really trying to make this e-com stuff work. And I'm there with you, man. I know what you're going through. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to try and fail. It is super frustrating. It's super annoying. You feel like you're doing everything everyone's telling you. You're watching my videos, you're watching Anthony's, you're watching Mark Builds Brands, you're watching pretty much every person. You're going on Twitter and you're seeing Miko. I know a lot of you guys know that guy. I think I'm saying it right. Might be saying it wrong. I don't really use Twitter, but you're seeing all these people talk about this stuff, and you're seeing everyone make a ton of money. You're in a bunch of different discords, everyone's chit-chatting about the strategies, and you're trying to apply it, and for some reason it's not working. And I urge you not to necessarily pivot, quit, or give up, but sometimes it's that small difference and that small change. Because again, I was just in your shoes not too long ago, and it's that one small detail that allowed me to make that change my life completely. So you could be one thing away from changing your life. So don't give up, don't quit, and more importantly, don't get caught up in the drama of it all and all the nuances and the details that don't matter. At the end of the day, guys, if you make good copy and you focus on creating desire driven copy and angle testing copy, because I think that's where you'll make the most money, is when you do both. I don't think one is better than the other. If you do both, great. I think what can be a little bit more beginner friendly, though, is you start off with a little bit of angle testing, find that sub niche, and then you can create variations that tap into specific desires. That's what I do. It's not too hard. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got for you guys today, man. I'm getting ready to travel soon, so I'm trying to batch record some videos so I can keep you guys up to date, and you can watch this while you're on vacation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think. Again, shout out to Anthony. He seems like an absolute G. And hopefully you guys learned some from today's video and you can apply that. So take care, guys. See you all in the next one.